The Aces are in really big trouble. They are in seriously big trouble.
You're going to have A'ja Wilson, who's arguably the best player in the WNBA, and she represents that woke, Yas queen, why aren't I being worshipped enough, angry black woman. And then on the other side, you're going to have Caitlin Clark and the exciting whites.
Las Vegas Aces group is kind of falling apart. Kelsey Plum is now with the Sparks. Sydney Colson has now chosen not to re-sign with Aces.
We've got ESPN's ranks of WNBA players right now, and Caitlin Clark is really damn high. Angel Reese ain't nowhere to be found in the top 10. She's not involved.
The WNBA landscape is shifting, and A'ja Wilson is feeling the heat. Just months ago, Wilson and her supporters mocked the idea that players would want to join Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. They claimed Clark's popularity was due to white privilege and insisted no one wanted to play alongside her.
Can't help but laugh. And the people online who said that nobody wanted to play in Indiana. That doesn't make any sense. In what way would you not want to play in Indiana? The place where you're getting sold out arenas, the most viewership on television, playing with a player who was top 3 in MVP voting as a rookie, who clearly elevates her teammates around her. She scores a lot, but she is also dishing out the ball, able to elevate everyone around her. Why wouldn't you want to be in that system?
I don't think any team had a better free agency than the Fever, but it's just wild how like 6 months to a year ago, the kind of word on the street was nobody wanted to play with the Fever. Look at all these free agents signing over there. These players, they want to make money. They want the recognition. The only person to do that is Caitlin Clark. That's a fact.
But now the exact opposite is happening. Star players are leaving the Las Vegas Aces, Wilson's so-called dynasty, and choosing to play with Caitlin Clark instead. Sydney Colson, a two-time WNBA champion, is just the latest name to sign with Indiana.
That's really something special. And I think, everywhere she's gone, she's won.
Two-time WNBA champion Sydney Colson is signing a 1-year deal with the Indiana Fever. Colson, who spent the last 3 seasons in Las Vegas, brings veteran pedigree and experience in the backcourt to a surging Fever squad.
DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard, both seasoned veterans, have also joined the Fever, proving that players are eager to be part of a team led by Clark.
Bonner, Natasha Howard, those were huge pickups. Those two were like, oh shit.
Meanwhile, the Aces are falling apart, struggling with roster issues and financial limitations. Wilson, instead of taking accountability, is once again playing the race card, claiming that players are choosing Indiana because of Clark's race rather than her undeniable talent and leadership.
Tiffany Hayes, who said she was only going to go back to the Aces, is now taking meetings with teams.
So what's really going on? Why is Wilson being left behind while Caitlin Clark builds a powerhouse? Let's break it all down.
They've built a super team. They're going to make it to the WNBA Finals and probably win. The team they've put together with the coach, it looks amazing.
For years, the Las Vegas Aces were considered the gold standard of the WNBA, a team poised to dominate for seasons to come. They were labeled the league's next great dynasty, boasting back-to-back championships and a star-studded roster led by A'ja Wilson. But now the reality is very different. The so-called dynasty is collapsing, and Wilson is being left behind as key players walk away.
The WNBA has created the magical storyline. They've created conflict between black and white.
Sydney Colson, a two-time WNBA champion and veteran presence, has officially signed with the Indiana Fever. Her departure is just the latest in a string of losses for the Aces. Kelsey Plum, one of their core players, has already joined the Los Angeles Sparks.
This one has been the most shocking for a lot of fans because Sydney Colson seemed to be a key piece to the Las Vegas Aces. And secondly, they were also shocked because Sydney Colson's agent had made some remarks on social media, and these were directed at Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark misses layups, then hits Jackie Young in the face, her usual antics. The refs review it and keep it a foul on Jackie. Caitlin Clark then pleads with the refs to give Jackie Young a flagrant one when clearly Caitlin makes contact with Jackie's face first, and there was a video clip. This tweet is now deleted, so this is what Sydney Colson's agent had to say. She said, fans of this aren't actually watching, cause ain't no way you like watching this kind of basketball. Demonstrative, obnoxious, privileged.
Chelsea Gray, who was once considered an elite playmaker, is battling injuries and is no longer at the same level. Jackie Young, another crucial piece of the Aces' success, recently suffered an injury, raising concerns about her availability. The Aces are also in serious financial trouble.
she'll be the NBA MVP this year. They've put the perfect team, in my opinion, around Caitlin Clark. And you're going to have this racial conflict, the exciting whites, the angry blacks. The television ratings are going to be massive.
With Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, and Jewel Lloyd all signed to max or near max contracts, the team has little cap space left. They are struggling to sign quality replacements, forced to rely on veteran minimum contracts and second-round draft picks just to fill their roster. Tiffany Hayes, another key player, is likely on her way out, as other teams are willing to pay her more than the Aces can afford. Alicia Clark's future with the team is also uncertain.
The thing that I'm noticing about the Indiana Fever roster and how it's shaking out, just like the other pickups that they've gotten, Sydney is somebody who knows how to win. This signing once again proves from the Indiana Fever front office they are ready to win.
What was once a stacked roster has now been reduced to a shell of its former self. The Aces have lost several of their biggest contributors, and with a thin bench, Wilson will be forced to carry the team on her own. But instead of acknowledging the real reasons behind these departures, poor roster management, salary cap constraints, and the natural cycle of team rebuilding, Wilson is shifting the blame elsewhere.
Caitlin has never truly had a team of veterans around her to help her uplift her game. She has always been able to uplift the players around her. Now they are stacking this team with vets.
She and her supporters claim that the WNBA is favoring Caitlin Clark, that players are leaving the Aces simply because Clark is white. But the facts tell a different story. Players are leaving Wilson's team because the Aces are falling apart, both on the court and behind the scenes.
This is what Natasha Howard had to say about playing with Caitlin Clark.
She can spread the floor by shooting. She could dictate the floor as a point guard. She's an amazing passer, so I can't wait to run the floor and get those passes. Like she just grown just this past season, just like how she take the game day by day, and also just learning from other players and stuff. So I'm just really excited to be a part of this team and also ready to catch her passes.
Fever fans are already becoming huge fans of Natasha Howard. Natasha Howard's name is on the map. She's getting more recognition now, before she's even gotten on the court, than she probably has for most of her WNBA career.
Meanwhile, they are choosing Indiana because they see real opportunity, real leadership, and real growth in the Fever, none of which Wilson seems willing to accept. And this is just the beginning. While the Las Vegas Aces are unraveling, the Indiana Fever are soaring to new heights. The Fever's front office has been relentless in their pursuit of excellence, building a team around Caitlin Clark that's poised to contend for a championship.
She's a locker room pickup, another veteran pickup, somebody who can slot in and be backup for Kelsey, be backup for Caitlin. With Natasha Howard, with Sophie, with DeWanna Bonner, that was enough. If you look at the team from last season, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston took that team to the playoffs.
The Fever's latest signings of Sydney Coulson, DeWanna Bonner, and Natasha Howard are proof that players want to be a part of something special, and that something special is being led by Caitlin Clark. Let's talk about the impact of these signings. Sydney Coulson brings her championship experience and veteran savvy to the Fever, filling a critical backup role that bolsters the team's depth. Despite the controversial comments from her agent last season targeting Clark, Coulson herself chose to join the Fever, recognizing the opportunity to be part of a winning culture.
And this is what Fever president had to say about protecting their locker room.
Those are elements that each player that we have handpicked to be a part of this roster have that. Protect our locker room, protect the culture that we've got started. That was very intentional. You know, Natasha, knowing her when she was a young player, and then watching how, you know, when you go to other teams and you help other teams win championships, that's really something special. And I think, you know, everywhere she's gone, she's won. She's a winner. Natasha Howard is a winner. And to have her here not only as a winner, but as a winning person too, and in our locker room. So those were the kinds of discussions when we talk about players.
DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard, both versatile and experienced, have openly expressed their excitement to play with Clark. They've talked about her ability to elevate those around her. Clark's court vision, her selfless playmaking, and her fierce competitive spirit are exactly what attract high-caliber teammates. Bonner mentioned her eagerness to share her leadership and knowledge with the team, while Howard emphasized how much she looks forward to catching Clark's pinpoint passes. And let's not forget, these moves have shattered the false narrative that no one wants to play with Caitlin Clark. The Fever are now loaded with talent. Natasha Howard, Dawana Bonner, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and of course, Caitlin Clark herself. This roster is a mix of young stars and seasoned veterans, a blend that has the Fever set up not just for immediate success, but for a sustained run at the top of the league.
Now, another recent signing in Dawana Bonner, here is what she had to say about joining the Indiana Fever. She said, "I'm extremely thankful to be joining an organization that's on the rise and committed to growing the sport of women's basketball. I'm looking forward to coming in, sharing my leadership and knowledge, and doing my part to help get this team back to its championship pedigree. But more importantly, I'm excited to get to know everyone at the organization, the front office, teammates, behind the scenes employees, and of course, the fans. I can't wait to see everyone at Gainbridge Fieldhouse."
What's truly compelling here is that the Fever's rise isn't just about collecting talent, it's about building a cohesive unit. Fever President Kelly Krauskopf has emphasized the importance of chemistry and culture, selecting players who fit into the team's ethos of hard work and mutual respect. This is in stark contrast to the turmoil within the Aces, where the focus has been more on managing egos and juggling contracts than creating a unified locker room. The Fever's approach is paying off. They've gone from being a team that skeptics said no one wanted to join to becoming the hottest destination in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's magnetic leadership is at the heart of this transformation. Her talent and work ethic are undeniable, and players around the league are taking notice. They see the Fever as a place where they can win, where they can grow, and where they can be part of something bigger than themselves. As players continue flocking to Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, A'ja Wilson's frustration is becoming more apparent. Instead of acknowledging the real reasons why her team is crumbling, poor roster management, salary cap issues, and the natural cycle of team rebuilding, Wilson is doubling down on a divisive narrative. She claims that players are choosing Indiana not because of Clark's talent, leadership, or rising status in the league, but simply because Clark is white.
And you guys can call me a hater from what I'm about to say. I don't care. I'm a big dog. I can stand on it. Kathy made the call because you mean to tell me that two-time WNBA champion, the face of the God Dog League, okay? The Aces' main girl, right-hand man, Sydney Colson, is no longer returning to the Aces and is signing with the Indiana Fever? First of all, do the Fever even have any more roster spots open? How many folks are you guys going to sign? What is painfully clear, and what I've talked about in my other videos, is that the league, the Fever organization are doing everything they should do to make sure their star is happy and that their star gets a ring. I didn't know they were going to load up like this, though. Dawana Bonner, Sydney Colson, just re-signed Kelsey Mitchell. You already have Aaliyah Boston. You have Caitlin. You have Lexi. You got the MAGA Barbie. Look, this is going to be good and bad for the Fever. And this is going to be good and bad for CC. Because if CC can't get a ring with the Super Avengers that Kathy and the Indiana Fever has assembled, then the Fever better get a ring with this, because Sydney Colson is a two-time WNBA champion, a true vet, an amazing backup point guard. And anytime that CC or any of the guards need to go to the bench, I mean, Sydney Colson always makes the right call, always makes the right decision. So to pick up a vet, a professional like Sydney Colson, and then you also have a vet like Dawana Bonner, and you also have a vet like Kelsey Mitchell, and then you have CC and Aaliyah Boston and Lexi and the MAGA Barbie, and isn't Katie Lou still on your team too? So I mean, shout out to the Indiana Fever, but it's clear that this is a scheme that Todd set up to get CC a ring. And y'all could call me a hater. I'm sure you're gonna call me a hater in the comments. I don't care, because I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Am I mad? You can't be mad. You cannot hate the player. You gotta hate the game. I'm not mad. I'm just saying Kathy made the god dog call. Congrats to Sydney. Have an amazing time in the Fever organization. I'm sure you're going to kill.
This is not the first time Wilson has pushed this rhetoric. Throughout the past year, she has repeatedly suggested that Clark's popularity is based on race rather than skill, reinforcing the false idea that black players are overlooked and disrespected. But here's the reality. Caitlin Clark's influence is undeniable, and her success is earned, not given.
$36 million she drove to Indianapolis just by showing up as a rookie and making history. And so I understand her point of view. She wants to probably let other athletes shine. And she also says, like, it's earned, not given. There are other people that can use that spotlight to compete as well. So I think Caitlyn, she moves because she knows people follow her no matter where she goes. And she's very strategic about dictating where her value is.
Let's break this down with facts. Indiana Fever was not a preferred destination until Clark arrived. Just a year ago, critics, including Wilson's own supporters, mocked the idea that players would want to join the Fever. They claimed no free agent would willingly sign there, and that Clark would struggle to find teammates who wanted to play alongside her. Now, in a complete reversal, top players like DeWanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, and Sydney Colson have all signed with Indiana, proving those claims to be completely false. Players are making strategic, career-driven choices. If Wilson's claim about white privilege were true, then why did players like Natasha Howard and DeWanna Bonner, both veteran black athletes, choose to team up with Clark? The answer is simple. Clark makes her teammates better. She attracts attention, sells out arenas, and increases media coverage for everyone around her. That exposure is exactly what WNBA players, especially those who have been overlooked in the past, are looking for. It's a smart basketball move, not a racial one.
The Clark effect led to WNBA games that didn't even feature Clark drawing an average of 400,000 viewers. It's the Caitlin Clark effect.
The Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky game, 2.3 million. Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever, 2.25 million. Fever versus the Storm, 2.2 million. Sun versus the Fever, 2.1 million. Okay, so you understand what I'm saying.
Wilson's own team is falling apart due to mismanagement, not race. The Las Vegas Aces are in a financial crisis. With 4 players, Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, and Jewel Lloyd, tied up in max or near-max contracts, the Aces have little flexibility to sign new talent. They have already lost key pieces like Kelsey Plum and Sydney Colson, and they are struggling to replace them. The team is being forced to sign veterans on minimum contracts and rely on second-round draft picks to fill their roster. This is not because of Caitlin Clark, and certainly not because of race. It's a direct result of poor team planning and financial constraints.
Nobody is coming close to the power of the Caitlin Clark effect. Like, they're just not.
You and I both know, right? We both know. No Caitlin Clark, no watch. No Caitlin Clark in the league, no watch. Caitlin Clark's in that league, viewership doubles, if not triple.
Wilson's fans are scrambling to change the narrative. Just months ago, Wilson's fans were loudly claiming that no one wants to play with Caitlin Clark. Now that major players are signing with Indiana, they're trying to shift the argument, saying the league is somehow rigged in Clark's favor. But they can't have it both ways. Either no one wanted to play with Clark, or she's now so powerful that everyone is choosing to. The hypocrisy is clear. At the end of the day, Wilson's frustration isn't about white privilege. It's about losing control of the narrative. She was once the face of the WNBA, but now Clark is the league's biggest attraction. Instead of embracing the challenge and competing at the highest level, Wilson is leaning on excuses, trying to frame herself as a victim while ignoring the reality of her own team's collapse.
Now, Caitlin Clark also just celebrated a birthday a couple days ago, and for her birthday, she was in the gym, and she went 50 for 54 from 3 on her birthday.
The truth is, Caitlin Clark's rise isn't about race, it's about results. She's elevating the Fever, making them a championship contender, and proving that leadership and skill, not skin color, are what truly matter in this league. The WNBA is changing, and Caitlin Clark is at the center of it all. Just a year ago, critics claimed no one wanted to play with her. Now some of the league's best players are choosing Indiana Fever, proving that Clark is not just a rising star, she is a game changer.
So as you can see, Coach Keith Porter is there. Coach KP told me that one of his goals for Caitlin was just to expand her bag. So no matter what defense is thrown at her, she has something for it. Caitlin Clark wants to drop 20 or 30 a game. They're just gonna have to accept that because there's not much they can do to stop her.
Meanwhile, A'ja Wilson finds herself increasingly isolated, watching as her so-called dynasty crumbles. Wilson and her supporters continue to push the false narrative of white privilege, refusing to acknowledge the real reasons behind the Fever's rise and the Aces' decline. The facts are clear. Indiana is building a powerhouse because of smart management, a winning culture, and a leader in Clark who makes every teammate better.
I totally applaud what Caitlin Clark is doing. She's putting the WNBA first. She's saying, yeah, we matter first.
Players aren't joining the Fever because of race. They are joining because they see a real opportunity to win. At the end of the day, success in the WNBA isn't handed out. It's earned. Caitlin Clark has earned her place at the top, and the Fever are now positioned to dominate for years to come. Wilson can continue to play the victim, or she can accept reality. The league is moving forward, and Clark is leading the way. With the Fever stacked and ready to compete, one question remains. Can A'ja Wilson and the Aces survive this shift, or is this the beginning of the end for her reign? One thing is certain, Caitlin Clark is here to stay, and the WNBA will never be the same.